Let's speak to our chief foreign editor, Rob Parsons, in Ukraine. Rob, you're in Kramatorsk, dozens of kilometers from Bakhmut, which is the focus of the fighting right now. Tell us a little bit about what it's like where you are.
Well, as you'd expect, in a town very close to the front line, there are a lot of soldiers about. In fact, most of the population has gone. This was a town of about 180,000 before the start of this war. There are maybe 60,000 people here now, and most of those live on the outskirts of the town, the safer parts of it, one-story buildings. They come in occasionally when they want to do some shopping, but mostly the people you see around the center of town are soldiers. The cafes are full of soldiers. The cars you see driving around are driven by soldiers. So it really does feel like a garrison town. Talking to them, you get an impression of what it's like at the front line, because many of them have been fighting in Bakhmut. We spoke to a couple who told us, that they were regularly rotated in and out, that the fighting was very, very tough, very hard indeed, but they felt they were holding on. But for them, the most important thing was the next stage, because they're always looking ahead to what happens next. And for them, the next stage is moving from a defensive posture onto a counter-offensive. But for that, they say, and this is a mantra we've heard from President Zelensky endlessly as well, they need more weapons, they need better weapons, they need them to arrive more quickly. And in particular, they need tanks.
Yeah, and Rob, when you're meeting these soldiers from the front line, what have they been telling you?
Well, the message is essentially that. A few days ago, I spent a couple of days with a tank unit about 250 kilometers southwest of here, just behind the front lines. They, like the soldiers we've been meeting here in Kramatorsk, they're rotated in and out, and their role was essentially to wait about 5 kilometers behind the front line, and if there were to be a Russian breakthrough, they would push forward immediately and counterattack. But the same message there is, they need those weapons as soon as possible. They feel that they can win this war. They feel they can win the battles ahead. But essentially, they need the weapons now. They need lots of them, and in particular, they need those tanks. They are just saying to us over and over again, if we had those tanks, if we had those Leopards, those Challengers from the British, the Abrams from the Americans, they feel really confident that they could push the Russians back. But for the moment, it's frustrating for them because they rely on old Soviet-era tanks. Some of the tanks that we saw them using were at least 50 years old. And they said they spent 70% of their time repairing them. If they had modern tanks, they could concentrate on fighting and destroying Russian tanks, rather than sitting just behind the line and repairing their own.
All right, Rob, thank you very much. Rob Parsons reporting from Kramatorsk for more.